Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate View. We are so excited to be with you today. I am Miki, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine.
And I'm Kim. My company name is Onyx Homes, and we are in Chicago.
Yes, yes,
How's
Lorraine.
everybody?
Is in New York.
yes. In the cold, soon to be cold, blistery New York. But yes, I'm in New York. Mickey, you are?
In North Carolina, doing business remotely in Maryland, Baltimore.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
How's
So
everyone's
that's
week?
oh, the week. It's March next week.
it's
What?
March.
What's
Crazy.
happening?
I know, so crazy.
Life is what's happening.
But
Yes.
too quickly. I mean, gosh, I can't keep up. But but good stuff. All good
Good
stuff
stuff.
is happening, and I think that sort of leads us into our topic today when we're talking about business and doing business remotely and virtually and just doing business in general. How do you get the money? Where does the money come from when we're doing business? Do we need money to do this business? I think is also a question that's often asked of investors within
And
this space.
for people listening to us, like I am actually surprised that it's just now that we're talking about money. Like
Right.
we love money here. That's the whole point. Like we love having a business that thrives and that makes money,
hmm
and this ability that we have of just doing that, it's part of the game itself. So yes, let's kick off this discussion.
Yes. So I think an interesting way to maybe start off the conversation is to answer the question, like, and maybe each of us can kind of give our own opinions of like whether or not we need money in order to invest in real estate. My answer is yes, we do. You do need money, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your money. Like there are
Exactly.
so many ways to leverage a lot of the resources that are available to you, and even understanding what those resources may be can really help some people kind of get their businesses off the ground. Because I know for me, that was definitely a thought in the back of my mind, like, okay, I want to invest in real estate, but how? Like, how am I going to get the funds to be able to participate? And in New York, for example, where
Mm.
Very
distressed
expensive.
properties here can be like 3, 4, $500,000. So
I can
Yeah.
get two
not
houses out
necessarily
here for that price.
right. So the HGTVs and all of these things that we see on TV don't necessarily give the right outlook of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. We've been in business for about 3 years now, and I want to say that not that you can't do it, but you have to have some of your own money in order to do real estate.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Because I mean, I have an example like I was, sharing with you guys earlier that, we're getting ready to close on a property and we have to pay for the insurance because you have to have an insurance policy on the property that you're going to rehab. So that's funds that you do have to pay out up front before closing because you can't close without having insurance on the house. So in that aspect, I would say, yeah, you have to have some of your own money in order to do real estate.
Yeah.
And I agree with Kim in a sense that, even just putting a property on a contract, you have to have that earnest money deposit.
Yes.
Mind you, it's not the thousand and thousand, it's not even the bulk of the purchase itself, but it may be this 2,000 K putting that is ready to be into that to go as a deposit. So this comes usually from you. Um, and so you got to be creative when you're starting about that money.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think to kind of piggyback off of that about the deposit, because I know some people might be thinking, well, maybe I'll just do wholesaling, where you're not necessarily purchasing the property outright, you're purchasing the rights of the contract. But still think about it like what you just said about the deposit. Even when you're putting that property under contract, 9 times out of 10, that seller still wants a deposit to be put to make sure that you're that you're interested. So you have a skin in the game. That's the word I
Yes.
was looking for.
Yes.
So I think it's interesting that even when you're doing wholesaling and selling the contract, that you ideally should still have either the deposit amount or even the transactional funding to be able to do the close. So I guess to
Right.
get a little technical, when you're doing a double close, especially if you're planning to wholesale the property to another buyer, you're going to need funding to be able to do that first close in order to then now go to the second close to be able to actually sell the property to your end buyer. So there are companies that can provide
Yeah.
you with that transactional funding, and that's going back to leveraging some of the resources that are available. But it's understanding that those offers or those opportunities are in place, so that you can still do business with using OPM or other
Other
people's
people's
money.
money.
Yes. And
Yes.
literally that's the whole game, right? Because unless you have that that chunk of change sitting in your bank account, you have to come up with a solution of actually purchasing that property. And so the best way is usually leveraging other people's money,
Mhm.
and having, so you'll have the bank of the investor, which is like, the hard money lender route. But even with the hard money lender route, usually they will ask you for your skin in the game, which is usually 10% of their purchase price.
Hmm.
And so whatever that 10% is, right, it can be 30K, it can be 20, it can be 50K. It needs to come in order for you to close on that
Needs
profit.
to be
Like,
there.
it's not an option here. Like, it's not an option. It needs to be there at a table.
Yep.
So most of us, what we do is we go and we get private money lenders. And, Kim, you can go a little bit more into what private money lenders are for you.
Right. So first I want to just go over a couple of ways that, you can get into the real estate game without, using too much of your own money. I don't want to say
Yes.
without using any of your own money, because at some point you're going to have to use some of your own money. Even if you get it back, throughout the course of the deal, you still have to outlay something. So, you have seller finance, you got
Mhm.
lease options, we talked about hard money lenders, private money lenders, JV partnerships where you bring the deal and you partner with somebody who brings the cash. Some people also have home equity lines of credit on their houses where they're able to use those funds to
Mhm.
invest in real estate.
Mhm.
You have
Absolutely.
some of the government loans, the SBA loans, those are usually sometimes for commercial properties, wholesaling, which you touched on, and one of my favorites, house hacking.
Yes.
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 That
Yes.
is my hands down favorite for anybody who is I guess wants to test the waters of being a landlord or getting your first property, is getting a duplex, a 2 unit property, and living in one of the units and renting out the other.
Oh, yes. Such
Yeah.
a perfect plan.
Yeah, so those are just some of the ways that you can get into real estate without having to use too much of your own money or not any of your own money at all. And as far as private lenders go, most of us who you have to have good relationships with people in order to get private money, because private money lenders usually lend to people that they know, and they're
Mhm.
usually like a
Exactly.
family member, a friend who wants to diversify their portfolio and the way they're investing. And those are the people who you would you know run into, that would be a private money lender to help fund some of your real estate transactions, so you don't have to
And
come out of pocket.
I love what you're saying. So anyone listening to us, really, private money lender, it's a relationship um, system. It's like 100% is relationship. No one will come and just lend money to someone that they don't know, right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes, but it's usually that's not the route. Because when you think about it, put yourself in the shoes of the person that is going to lend money, right? If someone shows up to me, I'll be like, okay, well, let's talk here, show me some things, and maybe I will actually have you nurture this relationship for a while. So because I will be lending, not necessarily to the business itself, I'm lending to
Yeah.
you,
Mhm.
right? It's
Mhm.
to you that I'm lending. I'm not even lending to the business. Like, our private money lender, really, like, They don't lend to the business. They really lend to us as people.
And you know, it's so funny that you say that, because you know the saying that not all money is good money, and that kind of piggybacks on what you're saying, because if you are establishing a relationship with someone that you're potentially looking to do business with, you're making sure that both of your goals are aligning with whatever deal or
Yes.
transaction you're trying to do. So a lot of the suggestions I feel like we're making, it's not to say, just go out there and partner with any hard money lender or any private money lender just for the sake of obtaining financing for your deals. It's really just making sure that you are fostering those relationships, and that you are making sure that if you are aligning with someone for financing purpose, or to provide capital for your deals, that you guys can actually work together.
Yes.
It's one thing to have money available to you, but it's also another thing to have a great working relationship, so you can like rinse, recycle, repeat. I think
Yeah.
I
Yes.
got that in the right
Yes.
order. Um, to be able to continue to do this, so you can have this as your business. And one other thing that I think I'd like to add to your list, Kim, was business credit. Because I think,
Yes.
a lot
Mhm.
of those options are great, but in terms of when we're running this as a business, like we're investors, but we're also entrepreneurs. Like we're not
Hmm.
just out here flipping houses and doing things. Like we're actually running our real estate ventures as a business. And so I think it's very important for everyone who's starting out a business to start establishing your business credit from the beginning, because you can have this portfolio where, yeah, maybe you can start, once you build a solid credit portfolio similar to your personal, then the banks will start to trust you, and then that's the relationship that you want to build with them as well, seeing that they'll see that you are serious about what you're doing, and that you are actually establishing a business to maybe the point where you can be your own bank, and
Right.
maybe you're receiving lines of credit from the business, the bank vendors, or maybe using a business credit card or a loan or something like that, and having those in place to cover your expenses for your rehab, or
Yes.
for your buy and hold property. So I think that that's a great option as well, and something that can be everyone can implement it for their own business, because it is something that increases and builds over time.
Yeah.
I absolutely love what you're saying, Lorraine, because I think we don't realize that until we're like, 3 years into the business, here I go, credit line.
Yeah.
Well, it should have been done at day zero,
Yep.
right? Like day zero, that's when it needs to happen. And also, it's just, this is the land of opportunity in the US. Like, you can't do that elsewhere in the world. Like literally, you cannot do that. It doesn't exist like that, such a system elsewhere in the world. And so we are very privileged to have this kind of support. This actually helps any business owner, any entrepreneur to actually start their business.
Hmm.
So I highly, highly recommend starting that process of building your credit for your company, for your business as soon as possible. Like
Yep.
even if you're just like filing the papers, starting, this is like the other door that needs to be going, ongoing
Hmm.
always. Yeah.
I
And I
think
mean, the list that I spoke about, it's just a short list. It's just things that I know of. I mean, I'm sure there are tons of other
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
And we're not saying any of this to discourage anybody, who's getting into real estate, who had the notion that, oh, I don't need any money. I mean, you do need some money, but it's not, it shouldn't discourage you from getting into real estate anyway. You know what I mean?
right, right.
Well, to your point, Kim, like if you need just 5K, right? It may sound like, oh, it's the end of the world, but let's face it. When someone goes and do Lyft or Uber, like I'm sure that they can figure out in a few hours and get that 5K out of the way. Like if you really want it, you will find way of going and finding those 5K, even if it's like a temporary job for like 1 or 2 months, and then there
Mhm.
you go. You have that ready to go.
Oh
Here
yeah.
I am. I'm like giving you plans.
The hustle mentality definitely has to be there, especially
Yes.
if initially you're coming into this business thinking, or not necessarily being as liquid, capital wise, as maybe you would like. Then yes, you absolutely have to get more creative. And I think we've touched upon this in some of our earlier episodes where we said when we first started, and so to an extent, still even to this day, we still wear many hats
Yes.
within the
Mhm.
business. And that's one way that you can sort of leverage your time if you don't necessarily have as much capital in place right now. So, doing more outbound marketing tactics to be able to bring in leads. A lot of this you can kind of compound your time. So not only are you looking for leads for properties, let's say to buy, but maybe you're also looking for leads of buyers and people who, want to find real estate deals, but they don't have the time. So I think one suggestion is if you want to try to get into this game, not using any of your own money, then making yourself available enough to people who don't have the time, but do have the money. And then you can kind of partner with them and use OPM that way.
Right. And some of the
Absolutely.
ways that you can find, like, let's say, you're looking for buyers, you can find a property that was recently rehabbed, contact the real estate agent and find out who the person who, did the rehab was. And there you go. You have a buyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because most of the time, people who are buying homes cash, they want to find more properties that they can
Yeah.
buy cash,
Yes.
especially in this market when it's so challenging to get a distressed property at a distressed price. If you can leverage your time to be that plug, if you will, to find people deals who have the money, then that can be a business in itself.
And I think another way also that, yeah, Kim, you spoke earlier, like those kind of JV, there's different kind of JV where, I know we've worked with, how do you call them? Bird dog.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. And so he was super young. He's like 18, right? He didn't put the property on a contract, but did all the negotiation for me, came with the property, and then we did, the signing of the contract and all that. And then he had his referral fee. And so he didn't have to come up with the earnest money deposit, right? That was us. Yet he got to earn some money and
Mhm.
also the experience of doing that. So he's super motivated, and he's out there doing what he knows how to do now, and little by little he's building his capital and
Right.
his knowledge along.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people go into this, looking at it as, you don't have to put any money into it, but you have to put in a lot of time. This
That's
is
Yes,
it. Yeah.
exactly,
this
right?
this real estate game, it's you have to put in the work in order to it's not a get rich quick scheme at all
Right.
by any means. I know a lot of people think that, you get in, you buy a couple of houses, you rehab them, and now you're rich. No.
Yeah. I buy for $5. I'll sell it for $1 million. Yeah, it's great. Like, no, it doesn't necessarily work that way. And
No,
it's not to say, I mean, to Kim's point, we're not trying to make this all doom and gloom, but really to give you the reality behind, some of the things that happen within the real estate space. So I think, yeah, this is hopefully helpful and beneficial to everyone who's listening, of just different options that you have. You don't have to just think there's just one path to success.
right. And in regards to homeowners who want to sell their properties and they go through the seller financing route, it also helps them because they in turn, once they seller finance it to you, you're coming out of pocket little to no money to get the property to help them out of their situation, and then they in turn get payments over time. So
Yeah.
it's like a win-win situation for the seller and the investor.
And Kim, as you say that, of course, it triggers in my mind notes. Whenever I hear seller financing, I think of notes. And so when one of the things that I have learned since being in the note space is different ways to be able to invest in property. One of those being having a retirement account, like a self-directed IRA, or for most
Yes.
of us that have
Mhm.
LLCs, having a solo 401k, and being able to invest in property through those entities. I mean, because for me, initially, like I thought you either people bought property in their own names, or maybe they created an LLC and purchased assets there. But to know that you could actually purchase a property in a self-directed IRA, in a solo 401k, even in an HSA, which is a health savings account, and having, most of us sometimes have these things already established. If we're working a job, sometimes we have a health savings account already set up. Or if we left a previous job and we had a 401k there, you can roll that money over
Into
into
an
a new
IRA.
account
Yeah.
and then be able to use that to get started. So I think understanding what we have, because I think
Yes.
a lot of times we don't even know that, like we have money sitting all over the place. What does the IRS have, like that unclaimed funds
Yes, they
thing
My
where
name's
do.
never on that list.
I mean, it's not, mine isn't either. I always check and I'm like, darn. But it's things like that, that money could just be sitting around that we either forgot about and did or didn't even know we could leverage, that could then be used to get started with the business or with real estate as well. So I encourage everyone to, especially during tax time, take a look over your finances and see what's where, and maybe what you can benefit off of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, they don't know what to do with what they have sometimes,
Mhm.
and reaching out to a financial advisor is,
Yeah.
is a good idea to get some tips on how to use the money that you currently have to invest,
Mhm.
and like they say, scared money don't make no money. So
Okay. If y'all can see Kim's face right now, it was perfect. It was perfect.
so you have to be willing to take a risk in order, to reap the rewards.
Mhm.
And the other thing is also ask for the to the right people, right? Like don't ask Janet in the next cubicle next to you, who's like in a like in a terrible condition and like doesn't know what to do with her money too. Like she might not be the right resource for you right
Right.
now. Like reach out to the people that are actually playing the game and
Mhm.
that are being successful at it. This is where you should go, because really asking the person next to you, you are probably just in the same puddle together.
Right. And
So
then once you find out the answers to the question, then you go back to Jeanette
yes,
and inform her.
share.
So this way
Yes,
you both can
get out of the
rise.
puddle. Exactly. So you share the good news. So
Yeah.
that's also the other thing is like go ahead, look in into your contact list, people that you know in your community. And actually right now it's so easy with social media, right?
Mhm.
And I guarantee you, anyone that has success there is always ready to share their knowledge.
Mhm.
You're not asking for money, you're just asking for the knowledge. And if the person sees that you are really, really invested into learning, they will, they will guide you through the process. They will tell you what they did.
Yeah. And there's always YouTube University, I suppose.
Yes, I know.
Guys, don't
I
make
mean,
YouTube University your primary source
Well,
of
no, no,
no,
no.
no,
information.
no, no,
That's
no, no.
supplemental
That's
research.
not what
That is
we're
not.
saying. Go to real people.
And I'll actually, because I mentioned this, or I was talking about this on an accountability call recently. For those of you who are doing this type of thing already, like if you are a financial advisor or you are doing creative things within money, if you're investing in the stock market or in the cryptocurrency space or in real estate, share more of what you're doing with your network. And this is something that I personally need to do as well, is share more of what I'm doing on the personal platforms that you have, not necessarily just the business, because you'll be amazed at about how many people, whether it's friends or family members, who don't really know everything that you do or don't really know the extent of knowledge that you have or can provide. So I would really encourage, as a follow up to what both of you ladies are saying in terms of seeking out people that are doing things within this space. If you are doing things, share it so that your network and your community can benefit off of it as well.
Right. They can benefit, or they can help you.
Yeah. They
So
can they can even share out what you're doing,
Yeah.
to
I
others.
I actually love our conversation, and something just popped in my head. I'm like, we are having money conversation, and then try to remember how many times did you actually have money conversation? Like, why aren't we sharing that at school?
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's something that you need to understand in this life, we can always say, your love and this and that. But trust me, money is important.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Like that money conversation needs to be started way earlier than in whatever life crisis you're into. And then, when you start thinking about those things,
Yeah.
like really just open the doors to this conversation. If you see someone that you admire and all, like ask, you know, how did you get to this point? And no, I'm not there and I want to know,
Yeah.
because there is so many things that, um, you know, I would rather be like very rich and wealthy and crying than crying being super poor. Like, I feel like there's a difference there, right? Like, if I'm to have emotions like that, I would
You just
rather be.
you cry different when you're rich, right?
Yes,
What is the phrase? Crying in the Lamborghini. I think is that one of the
yes,
phrase?
yes. Oh, yeah. Can you find that quote? Because it's so good. I love that quote, really. And people that tell you, bring money doesn't bring happiness. You're like, well, does being poor brings happiness? Like, I don't know. Like, what are those quotes that we have in our society? And
Well, I
Yeah.
I
I'm
think that
just like,
I completely agree that I think that financial literacy really should be like a
oh yes,
core class
yes,
in
it
in
needs to.
elementary school,
It
even
needs
it's
to.
starting at, as basic as that, because it stems so much more from wanting to be wealthy or
Yes,
have a lot of money, because it's really about security. When you think about like a lot of the things that are happening in society, a lot of it is based upon stress, and a
yes,
lot of stress can come from money problems.
Hmm.
So if we
yes,
start to understand a little bit more about how our money works or how we can better make it work for us, then I think a lot of, maybe not a lot, a good majority of some of the issues that we're dealing with now could be resolved. And then, it's not to say that we have to have so many varying areas of the spectrum. We don't have to have people so desolate that they're living on the streets, and we don't have to have people so rich that, I don't know, they're bathing in dollar bills, type of
Gold
thing. Like, we don't
toilets,
go coin. Exactly, gold
24
coins.
karat gold
So
toilets.
it's knowing that us as a society, we can have that balance, and people can still be living comfortably, and you can have people who are still living, their luxe, lavish lifestyles, but it's a balance, I
Yeah, I
think.
mean,
And
I totally agree. And it's all about your programming and what you were programmed for with money as a child growing up in your
yes,
household.
really.
It
Mhm.
translates into your adulthood.
Yeah.
So you just have to, it's all about reprogramming. And I mean, I'm sure Mickey can elaborate on that, but that's another topic for an
That's a
entirely
whole,
different
yes.
another show.
It is.
I,
It is.
I'll piggyback and say reprogramming, but also exposure.
Oh yes,
Um,
Hmm.
yes,
because I know it was said earlier in the show that we don't know what we don't know. So if you don't know that some of these options are available, you're not going to know to seek it out. The more we see people who look similar to us, or that are doing things that we want to do, that will encourage and spur on the conversation. I think that adds another layer to it as well.
Yeah, I
it
agree.
does. So really, this was an interesting conversation, and the last portion of it was more emotional for me.
But that's the real of the real estate view, everyone. That's
Yep.
Like
real.
really, it is the real thing. Like money is important. Like
Hmm.
we're finishing on that note, but money is really important, and real estate will not exist without money. Like
Exactly.
you know, that's what we do.
Well,
We make
this
money.
this this will be, I think, a topic for another day. But when we start talking about money and real estate, and where we're going on that track, when we have like these virtual worlds, and being able to buy real estate with Bitcoin and all of these other things, I mean, again, that's a whole another topic. But that spurs, that kind of adds on to the financial literacy, because now when maybe most of us are now catching up to the dollar bills type of collateral and money that we're dealing with. Dealing with digital currency is just like a whole other ball game
Mhm.
that, a lot of us aren't we're still learning about. But this is the wave that we need to be on in order to continue to keep up with what's happening. So money to be continued, because
Mhm.
there's so much that we can really share, and even learn about this topic.
And on that note, you see how
Absolutely.
she lights up when she starts talking about them Bitcoins? Mm.
We all know who loves Bitcoins here.
I like diversification. I like
Absolutely.
leverage.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So we will absolutely have to do an episode on that topic.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
And you would lead us, Lorraine.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I
So
can do
Kim
that.
and I are more like, here's the cash. Go ahead.
Yeah. Convert it to Bitcoin for me. All right, ladies. Well, this was an excellent show. Great
Yeah.
talking to you guys. And as usual, we are here every Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern. And you can
Yes.
watch replays on YouTube and listen to it on Spotify.
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
All right. So
Perfect.
until next week, know your why.
Know your heart.
And know your purpose. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.